Hi, my name's Aisha and welcome to my channel. Hopefully everyone's doing okay. I know we're still in the middle of a lockdown and but things look like they're getting better, so hopefully it won't be for too much longer. In today's video, I'm going to go through the different ways that you can buy a property. A lot of people think that, there's only just a few different schemes out there to be able to help them get on the property ladder, but there's actually quite a wide range of options, and if you don't have all of the information, then you can't make a choice that's right for you. So today's video hopefully will help with that a little bit. Obviously there's, what I can cover in a video is not everything, it's just like sort of the key points of each of the different things that are available. You definitely have to do your research properly and make sure that it really is the right thing for you. And if you can find someone that's gone through that process that maybe or sometimes you can just find people on the internet, you can ask for their opinions and stuff. It's good to follow in the footsteps of someone who's done it, who knows what they're doing, who knows what the consequences are and what the advantages are and different things. So definitely find someone who has done the thing that you're maybe interested in. I think the most obvious way of buying a home is probably what most people do. It's what I did, and that's just to find a property through an estate agent. So obviously you've got the estate agent shops, you can just go in. Sometimes if you're like shopping on the high street and stuff, you can just go, you can look in the window, see what's available. But the easiest way I found of doing it is just using like a search, like Rightmove or something like that, and all of the different estate agents, or most of them, will put their properties for sale on there, and you can have a look through and you can like search by number of bedrooms, by budget, by area. You can draw a little circle over a map and just like say you want to find things in a particular search radius. So it's quite helpful. And once you do that, then obviously you can then put an offer in on a property that you like after you've viewed it, and maybe you've got your agreement in principle and things like that. So that's just the normal way. Once your offer is accepted, then you'll go through the process with the solicitor, and then you'll end up at completion. If you're feeling a bit more risky, then you can probably look at maybe auction properties. So auction properties generally appear to be a bit cheaper. You'll see what's called a guide price written on auction properties, and that will give you an idea. It's a bit of a red herring because it makes it look like a property is really cheap, but actually if there's loads of interest in that property, then it'll be more expensive. But it gives you an idea of where the starting point is going to be. So if they say 100,000 for example, then you'll know that the starting price for the auction is not going to be 10% more than that. So you'll know that it will start at least or maximum 110,000, for example, okay? Because it's always no more than 10% higher. The reason why I say auctions are a bit risky is because you really do have to do a lot of reading to make sure that you're getting a good deal. Not only do they sometimes appear cheaper than normal, you might find that there's some funny terms and conditions, and like if you don't read properly and you go in and you bid on a property, you might find that actually in the small print you're ending off paying someone else's debt or something like that. So you really do have to be careful. And one of the pieces of advice that's out there when it comes to buying auction properties is that you should maybe get a solicitor before you go to just read over the terms and conditions. Yes, you are going to have to pay a little bit of money for their time, but actually it might end up saving you money or saving you from getting yourself into trouble, because like what a lot of people don't realise, and what I didn't realise until I sort of researched into it, is that actually your exchange of contracts, so the moment it becomes legally binding, is when you're at the auction, you're the highest bidder, and that like gavel, the auction guy hits the gavel and says, yeah, like sold to the highest bidder. That's your property. You can't go back after that. So you really do have to make sure that you definitely want that property. And you actually also have to make sure that your finances are in order as well, because with the normal process or with one of the schemes, you might be able to get a property with a 5% deposit, but at an auction you're going to have to put 10% down straight away, and then you're going to have to come up with the rest of it. And generally things go very quickly, so you might end up with the property in a month after you've gone to the auction. So it's really good if you're wanting to get somewhere quickly, but it's not so great if you don't have your finances in order, and if you don't really know much about the process. So you really do have to do your research on that one. I've not bought a property at auction before. I'd really love to do it, because I think you can get a great deal sometimes. You can get like sort of dilapidated buildings, and then you can, if you get it for a good price, then you can then make more money on it once it's all complete. But I don't have the money to just go to an auction and be like, yeah, it's 10% for you. I don't have that all in place, and I'm not as confident in that yet, but there's something that I really want to work towards. The other thing as well is that sometimes you might not be able to get into the building properly. I know some people like on Instagram who have like bought houses that have had a house fire in them previously, and you can't go into it. You can't do a like survey properly or anything like that to try and see what the building is actually like, as to how much money you're going to have to put into it. And so it can be really risky in that way if you don't quite know what you're getting into. So it sounds fun, but it's not for the faint-hearted at all. Okay, so if you like your new build properties and you don't want to live in something that somebody already has, like I have a friend who, she says she doesn't want an old property because there might be rats and like mice and stuff in. So you don't know how, that's the thing with buying a house, you don't know how the person previously has been living in there. Like the things I found in this house when I was doing the renovation, it is just crazy. Like there were hidden surprises like in every nook and cranny, and you know, you just don't know what you're coming across. So I understand the concept of wanting to have a fresh house that's built just for you. You're the only person that's been in it. It's kind of like buying a new car. You know what you're getting. It's just yours, and it's just fresh. It's fresh, but it also comes with a higher price tag as well. But as it comes with a higher price tag, there are obviously schemes in place that can help you out with that. So I'm sure most people will have heard of the Help to Buy scheme, where the government will help you with a deposit towards your property. So if you want to use Help to Buy, how it works is you come along with your 5% deposit, and then the government is going to give you a 20% loan. And this means that you can then go to the bank and ask them for less money in your mortgage, so you can get a 75% mortgage rather than like a 95% one or something like that. If you're buying a property in London, then they did increase the loan amount to 40%, which again is good, because 40% plus your 5%, it means that your mortgage is going to be much lower. What you need to ask the bank for is going to be much lower, which is good in a way, but obviously there's terms and conditions. And so the first thing is that the property needs to be a new build property. It needs to be under the or up to the value of £600,000. So you can't be like, yeah, I want that mansion over there. Like, no, it doesn't work like that. You can't have any additional property. So if you have a home currently, so like I have this house right now, if I want to go and get a new build property, I would have to sell this house and then buy the new house with the Help to Buy scheme. I can't hold on to this one, make it a buy to let, and then go and get a new build property. So if you want to sort of build your property portfolio, then you can maybe start off on Help to Buy, but you won't be able to get the next one on Help to Buy if you wanted to hold on to the one that you've got. So another catch with this scheme is that the government loan, so that 20% or 40% if you're in London, that's only interest free for 5 years, and then after that they start charging interest on that loan. So I guess in a way it's good for people who maybe like get large bonuses at work, because then you can use your bonus money to sort of put aside to maybe pay down that loan so that you don't get as much interest in the future. I don't think I know anyone that's been on Help to Buy long enough to know the impact of what that interest has had on their mortgage, so I can't really comment on that bit of it, but that's something to bear in mind. It's not interest free forever. You're going to have to pay money on it later on down. So the other thing to be aware of is that if you buy a home on Help to Buy, when you sell that home, because obviously the government has helped you to buy it, they also take their nice share of profits as well. So if they give you 40% loan, then they're going to be looking for 40% of the value of the home. So then that eats into the profits that you would have gotten on your home when you sell it and move on. So that's something to be aware of as well. When you're doing your calculations for selling it on, you have to think, actually, I'm only going to get this amount because the government wants 20% or 40% or whatever of it. So if Help to Buy seems like something that you want to like find out more information about, or something that you're interested in, then you can obviously, because it's new build, you need to buy a home from a house builder. So someone like Redrow or Barratt Homes or Bellway or any of those, you know, when you're driving past and you see all of those construction sites, one of those types of companies is going to be able to get you a house on Help to Buy. So look into it and visit them if you're interested. It's good to shop around because you have like whole development areas, and then that development area is split in between the different house builders. So you might find a cheaper house with one house builder, or you might get help paying your stamp duty with another one, or you might get help with moving fees from another one. So different companies will offer you different things. You can then barter maybe as well. You can go to one and be like, oh, but they're offering this, so maybe, you know, if you're good at bartering, like my brother-in-law is excellent at bartering, then you can get yourself a good deal as well. And also they do referral schemes as well, so if you then buy your house, you can introduce someone else to that scheme, and then or to that developer, and they will give you some cash and stuff. So that works quite nicely as well. If you're thinking of maybe getting, I don't know, a Barratt home, then maybe find a friend who's had Barratt homes, and then they can get a little reward or something like that as well. It works, it's beneficial. My friends have done that. Another little side note just on just buying new builds in general, whether you're using the Help to Buy scheme or not, it's not like with normal houses. So like when you get a normal run-of-the-mill house, that's not new. Like my house, for example, I don't pay any service charge on it, but with a new build property, you're going to pay service charge on it because the council don't take responsibility for those homes. They don't want to maintain the roads, they don't want to do all of that stuff because like it's an extra burden on them. So they then charge a service charge to the homeowners, and there have been sort of like almost scandals in the past where the fees of them have gone up quite a lot after a certain number of years, and then it's just become unmanageable, and then people have struggled to sell their homes after that. But I think they've kind of nipped that in the bud, and it's much better. And that's just something to be aware of, that you've got those extra fees if you're buying a house or a flat that is a new build. Is going to have more service charge on it. So yeah, take that into consideration. Another scheme that you can maybe look into is maybe shared ownership. If you can't quite stretch your budget to buying something outright or buying something from the Help to Buy scheme, then shared ownership is available. So you might be able to pay or buy 25% of a flat or a house instead of buying the whole 100% and being responsible for all of that. It's a bit of a tricky one though, because if you say, for example, only buy 25% and you just have a share in the house rather than the whole thing, then that means you're paying rent on the other 75% of it. So you tend to have really high monthly outgoings, so you're going to have to be able to prove that you can afford those outgoings before you can even get accepted. Now this one's through housing associations, so again they prefer housing association tenants, but they do open it up to like other people, like maybe key workers, and then there's like a waiting list. So it's not as accessible for like I looked into it. I don't like it. I just, you know, it's good to research your options. When I looked into it, my pay wasn't enough to be able to qualify, and I couldn't prove that I would have had the monthly income in to be able to justify paying the rent plus my mortgage as well. So it's only certain people can qualify. It's a bit of a tricky one. I personally don't like it because I don't like the fact that you're still renting basically, and you're doing more rent than buying. And like I used to work with a colleague, and she had shared ownership, and I had my 1-bedroom flat, and like my monthly outgoings were just so much less. And I think it's better to try and find something like I did, get on the property ladder and then use it to then move forward. I think you can get rid of it much easier and much quicker if you just get a normal house, because again, this one is only on new build properties, so those costs are really high. You can find yourself a cheap older flat or house for much less, and use it to then build equity and then move on. That sounds quite negative, but I also know another ex-colleague who did do shared ownership. She bought herself a flat, and but she had a secure job. She was able to then pay it down. I think she got a tenant in as well because she had a 2-bed, and then she just paid it down, and now she owns 100% of that property. So if you are going to go into shared ownership, I think it's a really good idea to quickly try and buy more shares in the property and eventually own it outright, so that you're not paying rent to someone and you're not sort of trapped in that cycle, because you can get trapped just paying rent. Like I said in my previous video on my tips for buying a property, like if you're spending so much money on rent, then that's money in somebody else's pocket paying their mortgage, or in this case a housing association. They're just getting richer off of the back of you, and you're not actually progressing as much as you could have if you tried another way of saving money and getting into it. So look into it. It works for some people, it's great for some people. Yes, it's better to own something rather than nothing, because if the property value goes up, then of course you can share in that profit as well. So yeah, weigh it all up. It's something that you have to consider seriously for yourself. So the next few things that I'm going to be speaking about today are actually for people who maybe are council tenants or housing association tenants. So I think a lot of people get very comfortable being in a council property. I know lots of people who live in council property. My mum started off on the property ladder by being in a council property, and then she eventually bought it off of the council and then moved on and so on. But you've got to be able to know your rights as a council tenant, and yeah, don't get too comfortable unless you like sort of not having any responsibility. But if your ultimate aim is to get on the property ladder, then you should have a look into a couple of the schemes that the council does or that the government does for council tenants or housing association tenants. So the first one I'm going to talk about is the Right to Buy scheme. If you are a council tenant and you've been living in your home for like 3 years, you have the right to buy that home, and you can buy it at a discount. You can get quite large discounts, so like you can get up to £84,200, and you can get even more than that if you're in the London area as well, because London obviously is more expensive to live in, so generally the discounts with all of the schemes are more for those who are getting their properties in London. It's something that's quite good to look into if maybe you've been in a council property and then maybe you sort of progressed in work and you've maybe changed jobs, you're a bit more secure or whatever. You can then look into buying that property. I think it's always nice when you own something of your own. Yes, it does mean that you then have to do the maintenance and stuff on it, but it's a place of your own. It's something that you can then sell in the future when property prices rise, because they always do. Yes, we've got coronavirus at the minute, and yeah, maybe it may or may not have an impact on the houses and the prices and stuff, but eventually it's going to recover, it's going to go up, because that's property, it's cyclical, and it's done that ever since the dawn of time. So yeah, it's always good to own property, whether it goes up, down, whatever. Eventually it goes up. All of the different schemes that I'm going to mention to you, they all have their positives and they all have their negatives. So obviously there are a couple of conditions with this one. So one of the catches are that if you sell your house within 5 years after buying it on the Right to Buy scheme, then you might have to pay back some of that deposit or all of it, depending on how quickly you move on. The other thing is that if the council have done works on your property, then you may not get a discount at all, depending on how much money they've pumped into it. I know that there are people that are like, the government, they announce or the council announce when they're doing works to a building to give you time to sort of prepare and stuff. And some people think that instead of claiming their house before, they'll wait until after the renovation works are done and then they'll buy it, because then they will have had the renovation works done for free. But it doesn't work like that, because you then are not going to be eligible for your discount. You can still buy the house absolutely fine, or the flat or wherever it is, but you're not going to get the discount if the government has spent so much money on it. They're not, they're not that silly. they're gonna take what's rightfully theirs. So you might think that, oh, I used to be a council tenant, but they've moved me to a housing association, or I've changed homes or something like that. That doesn't matter as well. You can still try and look into the preserved right to buy. So you might still have rights to buy it. The discounts aren't as much as the right to buy, but it's still huge. It's like 78 something thousand or whatever discount for the preserved right to buy. So you might still be eligible as well. So if you're in that situation, then you might want to find out what your rights are and look into that as well. The last scheme that's available is the Right to Acquire scheme for housing association tenants, or people who have like a public sector landlords, so not private sector, public sector. They might be able to buy their home under the Right to Acquire scheme, which again, you can get discounts, but it's not as much, it's nowhere near the discounts as with the Right to Buy or the preserved right to buy. So yeah, have a look. If you are a housing association tenant, or like maybe you're with the armed forces, or like certain like hospitals as well, you can they give accommodation to people, so you can have a look at the Right to Acquire scheme as well. The last scheme that I'm going to talk to you about today in this video is the Rent to Own scheme, and this one is one that I think is sort of less common or less advertised as such. I know one person who was in a property that was a rent to own property. I don't know whether they went through the whole entire process or what kind of the outcome was, but it is available. So how it works is you approach a housing association and you rent a home for them at a discount with the view that in 5 years time or 7 years time, it depends on the area, it depends on the housing association, you then will buy it from them. You can either buy it outright from them or you can do shared ownership with them. So it's a really good one. I think if you, one, want a new home because it's only on new builds, and two, if you really want to live in a particular area but you can't afford rental prices in that area, or you can't afford to buy a home in that area because you get a discount on your rent. So you pay 80% of the rental prices, and then that, obviously that money that you're saving can then go into purchasing the property later. And then when it comes on to purchasing the property, you get like discounts as well. So you get some of the rent back or something like that, and then you can again use that to put into the property. With this scheme, as with the other schemes, there are a couple of drawbacks. So the first one is that your combined household income has to be 60,000 or less. So you can't be like super rich or earning lots of money and they're just gonna let you have, you know, a cheaper rent. No, it doesn't work like that. So 60,000 is the limit. And also you have to have good credit history. So the idea is that you're working towards buying the home. So you're not going to get a mortgage if you have bad credit. So and also a lot of people won't rent to you anyways if you have bad credit, depending on where you're renting from. So it's something to bear in mind. If you decide at the end of the 5 years or the 7 years that you don't want to buy that home, you don't have to buy it. You're not obligated to, you're not under contract to or anything like that. You might have to move out, but there are some housing associations who might like sort of give you a rolling contract and let you have a bit more time if you're just not sure, or if you want to, you know, you want a bit of time. It just depends on the housing association. If you want to take advantage of some of these schemes, as with the Help to Buy scheme, you obviously have to approach the house builders. With the Rent to Own scheme, you have to go to the housing association. With shared ownership, again, you have to go to a housing association like Hyde Homes, or I think Peabody is one. I don't really know much about housing associations, but those are two names that sort of spring to mind. So you look into it through them. You can't, it's not just on the general open market. Again, maybe on like Rightmove, sometimes they've got shared ownership advertised on them as well. It's best to look on the actual housing association websites because that's where you're going to get all of the information and you're going to find out about their particular terms and conditions as well. So the last thing I'm going to talk to you about today is self-build. That's the final way that I personally know of how to buy a home, and it's obviously the most onerous. It's the one that you need to put your heart, your soul into, because it's from nothing to a whole beautiful property. So if you're like wanting something that is just for you, it's totally bespoke and no one else has it, then this is obviously the way to go. But obviously you have to find the land and you have to be able to pay for that land. You can get lots of help with development costs. You can get funding up to like 100% of development costs if you look in the right places. But to be able to buy the land, you're not going to have someone just hand you all of the money for the land. You have to have at least 30% of it. And land isn't as cheap as it used to be. Like back in the day, land was like quite common or more common, and it was definitely cheaper. But because development's a big thing now, everyone's looking for land, all the developers. It's like you have to try and like be really creative with finding land. So a lot of people are like finding someone with a semi-detached house or with a garage next to it and like convincing them to sell them that part of their estate so that they can then build a house on it. Like that, you have to be creative. You have to know where to look, especially if you want land in a particular area, because like if you want to buy land in London, like where are you going to find it? There's buildings everywhere, so you have to be able to know what you're looking for to be able to get the area that you want. So it's quite tricky. Also, what is quite tricky as well is sort of getting planning permission for it. So to be able to do that, you have to find an architect. If you're not comfortable doing plans and stuff yourself, you have to go through that whole process of planning and then build the house after that. The easier thing to do is obviously to get a plot of land that comes with planning permission already in place, and then it's like half the battle almost already done. But it's quite time consuming because you have to make sure that everything is done properly. But the good thing about it is that actually you can get like a home for less money. So if I'm going to buy, say, a 3-bedroom home that already exists, it's going to be more money for me than getting some land and building a 3-bedroom house on it, I'm definitely going to be saving money. And that's why a lot of developers want land and they want to build homes rather than just doing normal standard renovations, because as soon as that house is built, like, your money is there ready and waiting for you. If you sell that house on, you've almost already got a profit. Obviously things can go wrong, so you need to be able to have a good team behind you to be able to make it work. But it's obviously very fulfilling, because it's just totally yours. It's your dream, your vision, all manifested. So yeah, that's the last way. But obviously the average person is not going to be able to just go out there and buy some land and build a house. So that's why it's the last one on the list, because it's the least, I think, achievable for the average person. But yeah, hopefully that's given you some kind of idea as to what is available out there. I know that there are a lot of people on my channel that are sort of looking to buy homes and stuff, and so you don't have to choose the route that I chose. There's so many options there depending on your situation, and but my thing is, I always encourage anyone to buy a house. Yeah, I know there are people out there that they just don't want the maintenance. If the roof, you know, sort of starts leaking, you have to fix it. If there's damp somewhere, you have to fix it. But to me, I think it's all worth it in the long run, and you've got something to sort of pass down to the next generation as well if you own your home as well. So I think if you want to build wealth, then owning property is the way to go. So if you're out there, you're searching for homes and stuff, I wish you all the best with that, and definitely take advantage. At the minute, it's a bit of a tricky time. Prices might come down, you might be able to negotiate a bit more. I know it's a bit of a horrible thing to do, to capitalise on someone's like bad fortune. Like, people have lost their jobs and things, they might not be able to keep up with mortgage payments, there might be some repossessions and things like that. But that's just it means there's opportunities for people who are wanting to buy, but it's not nice, but it is also, you know, it's life and how things happen. And you know, if you can buy a house from someone and get them out of their obligation, then that is a good thing as well. So I don't think anyone should feel bad, especially the average person, not like developers who are earning loads of money. And no, I don't agree with them like snapping up all the bargains and being like, yeah, I want 30% off of that. That's not the way to do it. But if you, as a normal person wanting to get on the property ladder, can find a bargain at a time like this to help you move forward and maybe get your step on the ladder, then definitely take advantage of have a look at things that might be coming onto market in the next sort of few months or so, because there will be opportunities out there. You might not get them, like I said, the developers, like there's been so many times where I've gone to go and get a property and I've just been like, it will start off at say 200,000, and then by the next day they've done an open house and all of a sudden someone's added like 40k onto their property, and I'm like, really? At least offer like 5,000 more, 10,000 more. No, they're really going for it just so that they can be the ones that snap that home up. And it's like the average person like me, I can't compete with all of these people that have more capital than I do. So it's there might be opportunities, you might not get them, but definitely try. You can only try, and if you don't try, you're definitely not going to get anything for yourself. So yeah, just I wish you all the best with your search and your quest for becoming a homeowner, if that's what you're looking to do. And you know, if you have any questions or any comments, then please feel free to ask. I will share any knowledge that I do have, and I'm happy to answer questions and things like that. I'm not obviously an expert in that, you know, property is not something I do full time. I have my degrees and stuff, and I know some stuff, and I can use my common sense pretty well, and it usually works. It always works out for me. But like, if ever I do give advice, then it's coming from a place where I don't necessarily have the validity to be able to give advice behind me, but I have an idea of what I'm talking about, if that makes sense. So yeah, hopefully this video has been helpful to you and has sort of given you a few more options of how you can buy a home. Even if you're not quite ready to do it yet, it's still information that you can use in the future, because a lot of these schemes, they're running until 2021, and then even after that there'll be more things that come in place. And I think also with the coronavirus stuff as well, you know, one thing that needs to keep going is the house building industry, because you know, people are being born, and I'm sure there's going to be a baby boom pretty soon. So, you know, houses have to be being built, it has to keep turning over, and so the government has to continue to support that. So at the moment, this is what's out there. More things might come, but these ones are running until next year, 2021. I think about April. New schemes or updated versions of these schemes will come out. So keep your eyes peeled, and, you know, just stay informed about the different options that are available to you. If you like the video, please give it a like. And if you want to subscribe to get future videos, then please do. Usually I do an article for my website, and then I post a video based on that. So once I write the next article, I'll do another video for you. It might be more of a talking one. As I said in a previous video, I don't want my channel to just be about, here's a lovely room, have a look around. I want it to also be informative as well. And so yeah, so I think the next one's going to be more of an informative one like this one, but hopefully it'll be interesting to you. And as soon as I can get this house on the market and move on and do more renovation stuff, that will come your way as well. So yeah, we're at a bit of a standstill at the minute, but you know, everything is, so I'm not complaining at all. So stay safe, take care of yourself, and I will see you in the next video.